You already have videos on YouTube with people saying that this RGB30 is one of the best devices of 2023. This isn't one of those videos. I first want to start, before we get into this, by thanking GoGameGeek for providing this device. Also just want to say that they haven't provided any money. They've supplied me with the device, but they don't see the video before I launch it, and they have no influence on my opinions or what I say about this device. And proof of that statement is what I'm about to say next, and that is that the RGB30 is fantastic. But I have to temper that with my sort of concerns with Powkiddy. Now, I make these videos, I first think of the community. I think newcomers to the community, what will they want to know? Like hardcore seasoned community guys, what will they think of this video? But then my main 80% of my thought goes into the video, the man on the street, selling retro gaming to people out there who've never seen this before and giving these videos a universal appeal. And that is difficult to do when we are such a small niche. But I think it's important that I do that because I need to think a person that's using an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy S24, whatever the latest Samsung is, they're using high-end tech, and then I come on YouTube and I say, this is the best retro gaming device of 2023, and then that person on the street goes out and buys this. When they receive this, I don't think they're going to be too impressed. And the reason I say that, on the one hand, this is going to be a very two personality video, because on the one hand, I love this thing, and on the other hand, that being said, let's get into the video. Let's look at all the cool things about this device, the reason I love this device, and some of the reasons why I haven't actually picked this device up as much as I thought I would. So I want to jump in with that terrible statement saying that the RGB30 has almost everything you need straight off the bat. So the horizontal form factor is very nice. So you know we have vertical devices, and I've reviewed a few vertical devices recently. Horizontal form factor is still great, and especially this sort of brick form factor with a square screen, and there's like these very large side pieces, sort of Joy-Con side pieces like a Nintendo Switch. It's really lovely to hold. It is a nerdy sort of curiosity device, but it does have everything you need straight off the bat. Jealous comes with the device, and as an emulation system, it's really, really good. And then Powkiddy's game card is actually pretty comprehensive, has some really nice games on it. The only thing I think I went on yesterday and I added my Super Mario and all those sorts of things. They don't send them with those games just in case they get into trouble. But other than that, some really nice games and a pretty comprehensive game card, a 64 gig card, and good games, not just like weird, funny games. Also, this is the first Powkiddy device I've picked up and felt like, I don't really need to fiddle with this device. I can just use it as is. As much as I maybe said that with the RGB30S, it wasn't really the case. In the end, I wanted Jealous on it. But with this, I didn't really feel like I need to tweak it to get it going at all. And then it's square. I'm going to cycle through a few systems on the screen now. And I was surprised to see how good NES looks. And you know, you can play around with stretching and that kind of thing to fill the screen. I found because they've actually included filters and shaders in this Jealous build, which does show a bit of love and care from the Jealous developers side. So Game Boy specifically Game Boy, if you just stretch it to the full screen, if you're not a huge pixel nerd, it looks fantastic. And then Game Boy Color, I just put the bezel on the Game Boy Color because I thought it looked pretty cool. I wasn't too happy with all the bezels, but there are bezels available. I'm also going to use a website called Display Wars to compare this screen to the RG405V. Also, the RG405V has a lower resolution screen. And then the RP2S, which I'm going to lean on a lot in this video to talk about what I mentioned in the beginning of the video. And the RP2S also has a lovely screen. But you know, people will say, oh, but that's a 4:3 screen, which is better than the square screen. Not necessarily, because you are getting the same render size, even though you've got the big bezels at the top and the bottom, like here on Sega. There we go, those colors are looking great. Look at those blues. It is very rich. Okay, so I'm shooting this in 4K and I've just put it up on a box so that it's sitting still. I'm gonna zoom in editing to show the pixels. It's really good. And then we'll quickly just do a pixel peep of the RP2S. And I'll just say that the saturation is very similar. I would say the resolution on the RGB30 does come across a little bit better. But overall, I do give the win on the screen to the RGB30, and also somehow it does feel bigger, even though technically it isn't. I think just because of the big bezel on the RP2S, on the Retroid Pocket 2S. So the sleep mode has improved. When I got this device, the wonderful thing about Jealous is that it gets updated regularly, like once a week. They really are prolific. They fixed the sleep mode. Someone said online that it literally just switches the screen off. I am still struggling with it. So when I put it in sleep mode, I'll get back to it in a few hours or sort of halfway through the day and it's dead. So the sleep mode isn't really a true sleep mode. I would say just power the device down when you're done with it and then switch it back on when you want to use it. Not ideal, but it is what it is. And apparently it's a hardware issue. It's that RK3566 chipset. Apparently that is just, it is what it is, you know? And then I did a battery stress test. I had, I think, Spyro the Dragon running in circles for hours on end. And I was actually surprised at 100% brightness connected to Wi-Fi. I got 3 hours and 59 seconds, which I was not expecting. I was expecting it to be about 2.5 hours. And the reason I was expecting that is because it keeps dying on me. And so it really just is that sleep mode that is not working very well. And then to compare it to the Retroid Pocket 2S, that is rated 3 to 5 hours. So they're about the same. And then someone on Reddit, waving my knife around, and then someone on Reddit said, this battery indicator here, when it turns red or orange, you've got about half an hour of playtime left. So just bear that in mind. The thing that really is lovely is that not often do we get a device that's shipped with firmware that has all these cool little treats on it for us, meaning the bezels. There are bezels available for you. And then also shaders and filters. I made a whole section on my Retroid Pocket Flip and 3 Plus setup guide explaining all the filters that I enjoy. So you can also check out that video if you want to choose some better filters, because the only filter I didn't like on here is the N64 filter. So you can go check out my RP3 Plus video and go see what filter I used there for the N64. The Retroid Pocket 2S comes in at 201.5 grams and the RGB30 comes in at 206 grams. So slightly lighter, negligibly slow. But yeah, one of the reasons I enjoy this is because it's so light, and this is the same story. It is a nice light device for your retro systems. In terms of the design, I think it was a safe bet going for a brick style design. Same reason I like the Retroid Pocket 2S. Going for the sort of square brick style design, except for their flared shoulder buttons, is a safe bet. You know, I just think it is a timeless design. It's always going to look nice. You know, we all love the fact that Apple went back to the square shape. It's not masterfully crafted, but it is really nice. I really like this. I must be honest, I haven't had an issue with these buttons. In fact, they've been so good. You know, when you don't notice tech, that's a good thing. And they just haven't bothered me in any way. I've enjoyed that. They're a little bit on the scrapey side. Not really, hey. You know, when you consider, I've been using the Anbinic RG405M, that metal one, and I suddenly realized the other day I was doing some sort of maneuver where my finger was jumping over to a button like this, and the button was going gah, gah, like this, because those buttons do protrude quite a bit and are quite stiff. And so for a much cheaper device, these buttons really are good. These are those traditional, I call them traditional because it's like the Switch style joysticks, which are sort of designed for mobile gaming, which is all you need for a device like this, because you're not going to be doing streaming or any high-end gaming on this thing. But you know that the bar has been set now by the Retroid Pocket 2S. You could stream games with this joystick because it is just so good, and you could play higher-end games because it is just so good. So they have really set the bar here. But that being said, it's not necessary for a device like the RGB30. Then, as mentioned, we're going to do a Dpad test now, but it is quite sharp, which is something that I don't like about it. If you are into fighting games, that's really going to bug you. Platformers, not such a big deal. But yeah, it is quite a sharp-edged D-pad, which is quite a strange decision to make. You'd think, you know, when you're designing a game, you go, well, we don't want sharp edges, just make them rounder. It is a weird thing to do. And then let's quickly, while we're here, We've got our plugs and things here. As TechDweeb says, all the holes. Here's the HDMI hole. And a reset button, which I do like on devices like this, because Linux devices do tend to need resets from time to time, and for some reason they've reversed the plus and minus. Again, if someone's watching this, you've turned translated captions on and you're watching this in Chinese, is the reversed plus and minus maybe a Chinese thing because you guys read in the opposite direction to the English? Anyway, let me know in the comments below. And then these inline shoulder buttons, some people hate them, some people love them. On this device, I particularly love them. I just don't like the fact that they rattle so much. And the one thing I don't like on this device are your start and select buttons. So when you're in RetroArt, you have to double press these buttons. And for bedtime play, this is not great because it's just very loud in a quiet room. And then my very scientific pocketability test. Let's get in focus here. Because I wear different pants in every review, so it actually makes absolutely no sense, but it's just fun to do this. So that is really pocketable. You do have the flared shoulder buttons, which do play a role in pocketability. So this stands to reason will just be more pocketable. So, and it is just more pocketable. The end. All right, so let's get into the D-pad analysis. Okay, so Darkwing Duck is a slightly less sensitive system. So, but I have had D-pads that if I move forward and I toggle the D-pad up and down like this, he ends up ducking. Actually, the Powkiddy X28 did that. So the Powkiddy X28 D-pad is quite bad, and I feel bad that I didn't major more on that in my video. Anyway, so there, and then when we press down and we rock back and forth, Darkwing Duck stays in place. So that's good, but that is one of the less sensitive games. So Power Blade is a little bit more sensitive, actually a lot more sensitive than Darkwing Duck. So if we move forward and rock up and down, he's not ducking. But the one thing I am noticing is if you duck and you rock very slightly to the side, he is running. Yeah, it doesn't actually take a lot for that to happen. Yeah, so if I press that way and just rock this arrow key up. So there's a front thing, there's a diagonal, and I'm not actually doing a diagonal. So it is a little bit sensitive. So I'm actually finding the combination moves to be not too difficult on this D-pad. It's just that it's just a little bit tricky to do them on because it's so sharp. So even though I suck at Street Fighter, I have been able to demonstrate that the combination moves aren't too difficult to do. It's just that D-pad's not so nice to do them on. I just want to test the analog stick. This is just a game that I'm familiar with, and on the X28, on the Powkiddy X28, if I turn the analog stick to the left or the right, the car is just going to swerve. Here it's a lot less sensitive, and we're getting a more muted response from this analog stick. It actually feels great. Apart from the tiny screen for PSP, this is a great analog stick experience. It's feeling good, man. And I know that Retro Breeze did a little analog stick in terms of testing any dead zones and all that kind of thing, and it was fine. So this is a good analog sticky poo. All right, and then the shake test, which I've done already. Not fantastic. I really don't like that, but you can just go in there and put some electrical tape. It'll sort that one out. Overall build quality, I would give it a 3 out of 5. I gave the Retroid Pocket 2S, I think, a 4.5 out of 5 because it just is, near flawless in terms of build quality. It's a mainstream feeling device, whereas this definitely feels like a device in the retro gaming hobby. And then talking about the audio, let's quickly turn the audio up. I have up until this point been doing a whole big audio test, comparing it to different devices, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't translate well over YouTube, so I've kind of given up on that. But what I do want to say in these sections is it's either front-facing speakers or nothing, because these speakers probably aren't the best speakers in the world, but because they're front-facing speakers, they're better than everything else. If you've got the real estate on your device, give it front-facing speakers because these are great. Right, and then in terms of connectivity, we've got Wi-Fi, we've got Bluetooth, not for headphones, Bluetooth is for controllers. We've got an HDMI output, so you can consoleize this. You've got a headphone jack, you've got a DC USB port, you've got an on-the-go USB port, so for charging and for external controllers. So setup bits, you need to sign into your Wi-Fi, so I'll show you how to do that now. Then sign into your retro achievements, go into main menu, game settings, retro achievements, put your retro achievements login details there. You can get a retro achievements account at retroachievements.org. Turn off the background music because it fires up with weird background music. If you like it, keep it, but main menu, sound settings, front music, off. All right, and then the shortcut keys, we've got RetroArch shortcut keys. We've got start and select, which you push twice, as I've shown already, to shut down a RetroArch game. Select and X will give you the RetroArch menu. Select an R1 to save. Select an L1 to load. Select an R2 to fast forward. Select an L2 for slow motion. Some people enjoy slow motion in a fast moving scene. Then for brightness, this is a universal setting. It doesn't work within all emulators and that, but press select, volume up and down, and that will change the brightness for you. Okay, so I did a little bit of Nintendo DS, so I just wanted to note this. The L2 will swap your screen, R2 will change the screen orientation, L3 will drop your stylus, and also press the stylus, but R, analog stick to move the stylus around, and then if you press R3, that'll take you to the drastic menu. Okay, now Pico 8, as I mentioned, this device has been designed for Pico 8. Whether Powkiddy did it by mistake or on purpose, it is a Pico 8 device. And if you are focused on Pico 8 and you get this device, you will not be disappointed. It is like it is designed for Pico 8. Once you open the Pico 8 menu, it just feels like, I wish I could just switch it on and off and it opens in Pico 8. There probably is a way to do that. How to install it? So go to the Pico 8 website, pay their $15, download the Raspberry Pi version. Unzip that folder, drag the contents of the Pico 8 folder. So don't drag the Pico 8 folder, drag the contents of the Pico 8 folder over to the Pico 8 folder on your ROMs card of the RGB30. Once that's done, just put your ROMs card back in your device, open up, go to Pico 8 and say start Pico 8. And it'll start up. You need to be connected to Wi-Fi for it to work, so remember to sign into your Wi-Fi and get going with that. So now you'll see that there is a little gap here. That's where the bezel ends, and then you've got a little gap here. And to me, like, this is now does look a lot better in terms of the pixel rendering, but to me, I really don't, I'm not as fussy with that sort of thing. You might be. I'm just going to press L1, start and select, come out of it again. I'm just going to turn into just scaling off, start Pico 8. Kalikan is a very nice game. Yeah, that's me, second. So the B button is the only button that does anything. I think some of the games have 2 button options. Let's get some. It's incredibly hard. They even got a lovely soundtrack on here. You can see how you can really get into this. It's just so enjoyable. Dinky Kong is a great Donkey Kong emulation, not emulation, so like sort of a copycat game. So there's quite a few of these. There's Poom. It's a really nice soundtrack. There's Poom, which is a version of Doom. There we go. Sonic the Hedgehog. And then it's got a Super Mario environment. It's very strange. This air delivery is quite a cool little game. So it's a RPG. Oh, now I can't get back to him. I was supposed to talk to him. Anyway, and you need to go around, and there's certain parameters that the little character can play within, and then you can go and I need to go and get the power, the sort of ability to climb up that ladder. So I've got to go through the world and obtain these abilities so that I can get to different places, so that I can find the letters for these people, because all their post has gotten lost. Celeste, obviously, a lot of people know this game. This little character has a little power boost. You go, and then they go in a certain direction. So I've got to try and every little stage is a. Whoop, there we go. Is a little puzzle. So you've got to use the abilities of this little character to get through that puzzle. Gotten into Wolfenstein 3D. So this is Sonic, and the developers say they're a long version. So this is the demo, and a long version is on the way soon. Well, it's got all the abilities of the real Sonic. I can't wait for this to come out. This is cool. So that's just a demo. Celeste number 2. This little Nito, you need to get through and find the gun for him. This also has a really nice soundtrack. A lot of these games have great soundtracks. And some of the games are quite short, which is quite enjoyable. You just play the game and get into it, you know. And you play a couple of levels, and it's very enjoyable. Just to have a short game like this. So this is like the Game Boy Color version of, whoops, I think I did a combination move there, whoops. Ready, Tetris, this game, obviously, Tetyis. It's modeled on some unknown game that I've never heard of. This genuinely, when I do pick up this device and I want to play some Pico 8, this is the one I actually go for. So those are my few recommendations and games that I've been playing, and I gotta say, this is where, you know, I start by saying, man on the streets, is this something you should buy? And then I hit a sort of like a road bump in my little narrative that I've created for myself, and I think, that is just wonderful. That just pulls at your heartstrings, you know, and that's what you want from a device. No, I was about to say, I've changed my mind. This is the best device of 2023, but that's why I say I've got to temper my excitement with the Retroid Pocket 2S. Smaller screen, but plays all the other systems apart from Pico 8 and Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Plays all the other systems at the proper ratio and size without a huge bezel. And it's just a better quality device. And so that's why I say this is a split personality review, because for the man on the streets, this is the one for you. For all the guys on retro handhelds, this is the one for you, because it's quirky, it's weird, it rattles, it's cheap and plasticky, but it plays these cool nerdy games. I don't know. I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is the one I will pick up in terms of pick up in my hands. But I'm getting ahead of myself. At the end, we will look at the costing, the value, and that's where things get interesting. So we'll look at that at the end. Okay, so while I do feel like Android is a little bit more intuitive with the NDS emulator, so you've got L2 for screen swap, and then R2 for the screen orientation. So R2 will be side by side, and then full screen. So you can switch between those. So the way that I play NDS is I go full screen, and then I switch like this. If there is a thing where you need the touchscreen interface, because this doesn't have a touchscreen, you will need to use the stylus, which isn't ideal. So there we go. So you toggle the right joystick. So there, and then I press the left L3, and there we go. It'll press that. It takes a little bit of getting used to. So R3 is your menu, and I'm just going, it's very small. That's the only thing I don't like about this. Again, I am noticing that this D-pad is just quite sharp, you know, which I don't enjoy. And you can always use the joystick, which is actually what I do on the RG405V when I play NDS. I know I'm jumping around a little bit in this review, but again, the action buttons and the D-pad, comparing it to the Retroid Pocket 2S, they are a bit cheap feeling. So as soon as you start to play this sort of system, you do start to feel like, oh, this is a bit of a cheaply made device. And that's where I start to feel like, sure, I don't know if I should recommend this to friends. Yeah, so again, the screen is great, but the control experience is not. You know, I was playing this new Super Mario Bros. On NDS on the RG405V, and I was having a much better time, I must be honest. I wouldn't buy this for that. So again, if you are excited about Game Boy Color, and the Pico 8, if that excites you, then you are going to love this thing. But if you are more interested in these sorts of things, and the Pico 8 and Game Boy Color are kind of a sideline, then this isn't the device for you, really. I feel like this next section is the most important and the most helpful to someone who's considering buying this. So the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus is $90, $99 with $10 shipping in most places in the States. But depending where you are in the world, go onto the Retroid website and see how much shipping costs to your area. That is going to weigh in hugely into the next part, which is this Powkiddy RGB30 at Go Game Geek with fast shipping is $95. I think it's $89 on the Powkiddy website. $95 with fast shipping. That is a really good, I actually think it's better and more worth your while to buy the RGB30 from Go Game Geek than to buy it from Powkiddy. So there's that. And then if you are in the States and you haven't bought either of these and you are shopping around and you want like the one device that's going to play all of the things, I definitely think if you're in the States and the shipping's not too expensive, go for the Retroid Pocket 2S. However, the way it stands at $95 including shipping, the RGB30 is actually the best device under $100 right now. Technically, the RP2S is, but you're never going to get it for $100. It's always going to be over. So technically, the RGB30 is the best device under $100 in the world.